Hello guys, welcome back to the channel. My name is Luke, otherwise known as CoolHandWiz, and today we are playing some more of Home. We found some disturbing things since the beginning of this video, or this game. Basically the main character woke up in a house and doesn't remember how he got there, is looking for Rachel, which I assume is some kind of wife or girlfriend to the main character, but that was the last person he remembered being with, and he doesn't really know exactly what's going on. He also is kind of searching right now for someone that he used to work with, whose name is Norman, and this is actually Norman's store that he runs, and we're trying to see if Norman is even here or if something happened to Norman too. So let's get started. We've also been finding random pieces of this guy's possessions, like his credit card, his driver's license, in different parts of our travels out of the little house he woke up in. So what the hell? One of Rachel's old autumn coats hung on a rack. There was Norman's bed. That was Norman's bedroom, wasn't it? What was this doing here? Here. There was a well-maintained gun cabinet here in Norman's room. I didn't know much about guns, but it looked like he kept a few hunting rifles. I don't know. There's the TV. Uh-oh, is this Norman? Oh no, I couldn't believe what I was seeing. Norman, my coworker and one of the few friends I had in this town, lay dead beside his armchair. His face and shirt were covered in blood. It looked like he had been killed trying to get up. His eyes were still wide with shock. Norman, what was Rachel doing here? Why did you have her coat? Norman, maybe you deserve better. You probably did. Did I close his eyes? I still think it's probably a bad idea. Sorry, Norman, but at the moment I was too confused to worry about you. I need to find Rachel and find some answers. I think that's probably a bad idea because to mess up with a crime scene and everything like that. The TV still flickered, some indecipherable channel. Well, I guess we found out where Norman is. I guess this was Norman's kitchen table. He kept it clean enough, but there was some water rings from 2 cups still there in the wood. The kitchen trash bin smelled fresh. I didn't dig through the mess, did I? Yes. I found a hairpin amongst the rotting food and trash and pocketed it. This does not look good. Guy does not remember anything about what happened. That kind of looks like blood on the wall right there. I used the hairpin to pick the lock. The hairpin snapped in half, so I threw it away. The general store was small, but it was clean. It had the usual things: postcards, snacks, magazines, and canned goods. I never went there much. Rachel usually stopped by after work if we needed anything. The register was mostly empty, and a fat stack of travel magazines sat beside it. The icebox seemed to be unplugged. It must have been off for a while. Most of the contents were half melted. There was various postcards from the area, especially the tourist traps. One of the postcards showed an old and black-white photo of the water tower. It looked to be in much better shape then. Yeah, we saw it was kind of falling apart. What else would I be forced to endure before the end? Seeing Norman up there dead, it turned my stomach just to think of it, but I couldn't put it out of my mind. How was he involved in all this? This was getting worse and worse. I was starting to feel incredibly vulnerable. As I stepped out into the rain, I realized how close I was to home. I hoped I would find my answers. Oh, I hope he doesn't find Rachel dead. The gate was locked tight. The neighbor's local, I knew it wasn't right, but I looked in. Did I take the letter? Yes. There was no return address, but the envelope was addressed to Norman. Carefully, I tore it open and looked at the letter inside. It read, "Stay away, she's mine." There was it. No signature, no other information. Yeah, this does not look good. I had the wrong gate. This one was locked. I had entered our backyard. The rain gave me a terrible sense of foreboding, and it chilled me through my clothes. I was expectant, but also afraid. I held my breath as I approached my back door. I was terrified to step inside. The house was painfully quiet. The only sound was my breathing, ragged and strained. I flicked the light switch by the door. The power was off. It's awfully bright for it being off. I remember having breakfast here on this very table. Was that yesterday or sometime before? The door to the basement, it was locked. Where did I put that damn key? There was a small pile of mail on the floor in front of the mail slot. How long had I been away? Why hadn't Rachel picked it up? Most of the contents were bills. There was a credit card bill there. Did I open it? I ripped open the bill and read it. To my surprise, it had something about canceling my credit card due to non-payment. What the hell? The front door was locked from the inside. Oh my gosh, how long was he out? The door was stuck shut. There was an old-fashioned keyhole underneath the handle. Okay. I had found the last missing piece from my wallet. The old photo of Rachel and I stared back at me, reminding me of better times. It didn't make me feel terribly comfortable. Did I keep it anyway? Yes. I replaced the photo in my wallet, feeling like I had got part of my life back. Still, the image made me uneasy. Why had I thrown it away? Our television, I had purchased it before I knew I was going to lose my job. I felt pretty guilty about it afterward, but by then it was too late. I'm not gonna say, but I think I know what happened. Our hallway mirror had been smashed. Its pieces scattered around the floor. Our sink, which needed to be replaced, one of the taps are always stuck, but I hadn't gotten around to fixing it yet. We were lucky enough to get a house with one of the wonderful old claw-footed bathtubs. The old house was charming, but but it wasn't always easy. My laptop had been left on, and only a tiny bit of power left. On the screen was a website about the old water tower. There was a key in the top drawer of my desk. Did I take it? I pocketed the key. I'm betting this is what we have to use to unlock that locked door on the second floor. The door was stuck shut. There was an old-fashioned keyhole. Oh, maybe not. I unlocked the basement door. Something is not right. This is very eerie. There were old Christmas decorations in the box. The garbage bags were stuffed with old paint cans and supplies. There was an old dirty key here. Did I take it? I took the small key and tried to remember what it unlocked. There were old clothes, tools, and other things we obviously hadn't thrown out yet. I'd put up this divider wall last summer so we could create a separate room in the basement. I hadn't finished it yet, so the door was stuck, and the drywall was poorly installed. I might have been able to break through if I had found something heavy enough. Oh, we just happen to have a hammer. Oh, I guess we can't use it for that. Okay, I guess we're gonna have to find something else to take. Because we didn't even use the hammer we picked up. Oh, I think we used this to unlock this. Oh, maybe not. No, I think we have to go up one floor and then go. It looked like the room had been tossed around. The furniture was a mess. Did somebody break in here? There was an old crowbar on the floor. Did I need to take the crowbar? I lifted the heavy crowbar. This is not good, guys. Okay, well, we're gonna use this to break down the wall. Yes. With a heave, I swung the crowbar at the wall. I smashed a hole large enough to step through. As I stepped through the broken wall, my breath caught in my throat. This was it. Was Rachel down there? Was she okay? Don't something. Wow. Don't look. A filthy-looking pile of rags had been dumped in the corner. The stench of them was awful and made my eyes water. I was terrified to even touch the pile to see what lay within, but I knew I had to. I had come this far. After all this searching, after all I had seen, when I looked within the rags, did I finally find my Rachel? It was worse than I could have possibly imagined. Within the folds of that rotten-smelling, heavy fabric was the pale, dead figure of my darling wife. What struck me most was that she wasn't bloody or torn apart. Rather, she was covered in sickly green bruises, and her windpipe had been crushed. The real horror there was that whoever had killed her had done so intimately, with bare hands. So this is what had been gnawing in the back of my mind this whole time. This is what I was afraid of. I thought about all I had seen and wondered if any of it could help me figure out who had done this. And when I couldn't stay there any longer, I stepped away on my shaky legs and made my way back upstairs. Reluctantly, exhausted from my journey, I could no longer resist the urge to close my eyes. Maybe I would use some of Rachel's travel books and find some places to go. It was my wallet with its contents intact. Either I dropped the stuff or somebody else did. Maybe I was sleepwalking again, or maybe somebody stole it from me. Norman's store, that forest, the water tower. Was I at those places before? I didn't see how it could have happened any other way. I must have been the one to lose my wallet and its contents. But what does that mean? This was the old photo of that other man and his wife, I assumed. I found it in that house. There were a lot of disturbing things in those tunnels. Underneath that house, maybe that man wasn't quite what he seemed. Well, what did I think? Was that man involved in this whole mess somehow? I wasn't sure, but the poor old bastard was good and dead. He was a victim, not a criminal. Within the few broken pieces that remained of the mirror, I could see my face had grown pale and weak. I couldn't bear to look again. It was like I didn't actually expect a reflection. I feel empty and drained. The reflection in the grimy glass was only a shadow, a whisper. I still loved the old-time charm of the claw-footed bathtub, though it seemed like a cold comfort then. It was the key card I had found in the factory. It seemed to me that it was probably Norman's, but if that was true, what was he doing back at the plant? Did I think Norman was going back to the factory? What do you got? Maybe? Who else would have put it there? The laptop had finally run out of power. I don't know. I have a feeling I know what happened, but it could be easily something else. It was the letter I had taken from the post box. Who had it out for Norman? Who had sent him that letter? It must have been someone from the neighborhood, or at least somebody wanted it to look that way. I wasn't sure what to think. Did he murder Rachel? No way. Norman had ended up dead himself. Whoever sent that threatening letter must have got to him. But who the hell was that? I still had no idea what was on that tape I found in the garbage. If only I had found a way to watch it. If only he had a VHS player in his house. It seemed like I had seen all there was. Maybe I thought I was ready to go back into the basement. Maybe there wouldn't be anything for me to find, but I had to take a look at least. Or last, I don't know what it said. Now that I stood there, I realized I couldn't go back into that room again. I had already seen too much. But then what was I supposed to... I needed to put it into one way or the other. There was nothing for me. Did I leave to never return? Yes. Living in this town hadn't been easy. The plant had helped in some ways to stay grounded. It kept me in line, gave me something to do, and helped me get away from my past. When the factory closed, everything changed. I guess that was when I started sleepwalking, disappearing for hours at a time. I had MRIs and piles of doctor reports, but nothing seemed to help, not even drinking. But I swear I had tried to give it up. I know it. The sleepwalking never really went away, though. But I know Rachel had tried. I know she had tried to be there for me, even when everything was falling apart. This night had unearthed terrible truths, but I knew it was a final act of a long-standing horror I'd been living. Waking up in that house tonight was the final cruelty. I wish I had remained unconscious in that room forever. I wasn't sure what had happened to that other man I had found in that house. He seemed to be, to me, more of a victim, but what was his role in all this? Now that I thought of it, the sewers were a terrible mystery. What had happened there? I was lucky in my way to even find my way out of there, but I never did find out what was on that tape that I now kept. What might it have shown me? I had found the contents of my wallet scattered throughout the town. Why the hell had I been out there? Had my sleepwalking gone to some new extreme? The thought that I couldn't account for my whereabouts but knew I had been to that forest and even Norman's place, well, it was terrifying. I didn't know what that meant, but at least I had recovered my things. Hopefully I thought that would cover my tracks so I wouldn't be blamed for all this. Making my way through the awful forest had been terrifying and confusing, but finding that book was chilling. What did that list of names mean, and why was Rachel on it? It seemed there was a connection I wasn't quite seeing. Had I missed something important? I knew Norman wasn't completely innocent in all this. He was obviously going back to the factory, rooting in those lockers. But had he brought that poor guard I had found to his end? It certainly seemed so, but I almost didn't want to believe it. After the factory, I thought I might find some solace if I could just get to Norman's store, but all I had found were more horrors and more questions. Now that I really consider it, that's when I should have seen it coming. Damn, Norman, how did you get mixed up in all this? I knew you weren't a perfect man, none of us are, but you didn't deserve this. Maybe whoever had done you in was responsible for the other murders that happened in that town. At the very least, I was convinced you and Rachel were killed by the same person. I sincerely hoped you would find some peace, my friend. I knew I never would. When I had marched through the rain toward home, I desperately clung to the hope that this would end, and I guess in a way it did. But how could I have known how hopeless it all was? I had started to feel as disoriented as when I sleepwalked to think of it now. Our houses used to feel so lively, so warm, but coming into the kitchen I felt only a cold, empty tension. Every terrible thought I had up to that point was suddenly a possibility, but nothing could have prepared me. My wife, dead, ruined, discarded. Rachel's death was a terrible mystery to me, one that would haunt me forever unless I did something about it. For what solace can a man take in the death of his wife? What comfort can be offered? Rachel had been taken from me, and I might never know why. As I swung open the door and stepped out into the air, I caught the scent of wet grass and fog. Rachel, my beautiful wife. Just the thought of her again, the cold and inert, shook me from head to toe. What would I do now? Who could I turn to? It would only be a matter of time before the police got involved, before the neighbors knew. The front lawn was soft and giving beneath my feet, and I couldn't shake the urge that I shouldn't stand there, but rather that I should run. Wow. That was a very dark ending. I'll give you my input. I think what happened, well, obviously we didn't actually know the truth because I didn't know. I kind of skipped some parts without really knowing. But I think what happened was that they lost their jobs, and then they got the main character got jealous of his friend who had been hanging out with Rachel, his wife, and got depressed and stuff like that and kind of blacked out, but had murdered all of these people out of jealousy. That's what I think. If you guys have any other opinions or any ideas of what you think happened, let me know in the comments. I'd be really interested to kind of hear what you guys think. But apart from that, I hope you guys have enjoyed this series. It's just like a little mini series. I really wanted to play kind of a scary, kind of eerie themed game that wasn't too crazy long, and it was interesting. It was kind of like a mystery kind of game. But if you guys have any suggestions in terms of what kind of games you guys want to see next on the channel, be sure to let me know in the comments. Don't forget to hit that like button if you guys enjoyed the series. Subscribe if you want to see more, and apart from that, I will see you guys next time. Adios.